Hello, everyone, and welcome to the content for this week in MHA626, which is professionalism in healthcare. And so, uh, again, as you'll know, I am a big fan of using my stylus, so hopefully it won't throw everyone off, although it just might do that. And there we go. There was just a little bit of throw off right there. So let me go back. Oh my gosh, let me go back and do a few things with the stylus before I say welcome. Um, so I'll be drawing all over this PowerPoint, but hopefully to make the point for all of you. So the objective of this module is really to set the context for the course, um, to describe the impact of legal and ethical issues in healthcare through this notion of professionalism, through some examples of codes of conduct. I'm going to go into some little more practical information about professionalism as well. So I want to first start by just giving you a definition, and there's a variety of definitions when it comes to professionalism. First of all, I would probably say that every discipline within healthcare has some sort of code of conduct or statement on professionalism as well. Comes from the American College of Healthcare Executives, which is the professional body for health administration, health management. And hopefully, by the time many of you are going through the MHA program or ending, you might decide to become members of ACHE. But this speaks to a healthcare executive's responsibility for professionalism. And you can see the source comes right out of, excuse me, the website. But the second sentence here really sums it up. But it includes the ability to align personal and organizational contact with professional and ethical standards. So to really mix that together. But the responsibility lies with service, which is mentioned a few times, to patients and to the community. So this really speaks to the notion that a healthcare leader's direction is towards patient care, to support those who provide patient care, and to the overall community. And that's really built into this definition of professionalism. Certainly, the clinical professions gear their codes of conduct or statement of professionalism to patient care, to integrity, to technical skills as well. So I mentioned codes of conduct a few times, and it's fairly easy to find a code of conduct and connect that to both the ethical and legal stance and framework of healthcare. Code of conduct is really right and wrong for the most part. Uh, they identify areas of gray, but it's, again, a framework. And I want to share with you a code of conduct that I have been using for a number of years outside of healthcare. Now, this might be a few years old, but it comes from Toyota. Here in southwestern Indiana, one of the largest employers in the region is the Toyota Motor Manufacturing Indiana plant in Princeton, Indiana. And I have a number of friends, colleagues who work there, and so I was able to retrieve this. But this is probably, I would say, well, maybe late 2010, 2011. So it's some years ago. I'm sure it's been it's evolved since then. But this comes from their code of conduct booklet that all employees, regardless of responsibility within the uh, Toyota Corporation, receive this. They have to sign off on it. As with most codes of conduct, they have to abide by it. But you can tell that it is just by looking at this page, and I'll show you another page as well. It makes sense because it is built into, again, the framework of what Toyota does, which is produce vehicles. So this is a compliance and ethics traffic light, red, yellow, green. Here's some things we shouldn't do. Here's some things that if we have to do, we might have to talk to other team members. They might be ethical issues. And here's some things that we really got to do. We're expected to do. And so it's clear, at least from because we understand how a traffic light works. Uh, but this is probably a decision-making tree. I would say probably a more interesting part of the code of conduct um, packet, a decision-making tree. But what happens when you're sort of in that yellow light idea? What should you go? Should you slow down? Should you stop? We've all been at yellow lights and we've made different decisions. This is a framework in terms of exercising caution, but there's an ethical dilemma. It's actually, I think, a clever way. And this is part of the notion of teaching professionalism. It certainly can be taught. You set the context, you provide tools, perhaps examples as well, and individuals practice that. And with that practice and with a guide, which is this code of conduct, there's a better sense that decisions can be made out of a sense of compliance as well. So this is compliance as well. So let me keep going as because I wanted to share that with you from a non-healthcare perspective, but I also want to really dive into professionalism in healthcare. So I'll say this is neat as well. So let me write a few things on here. There are 4 questions related to professionalism in healthcare. How do you demonstrate it? How do you measure it? Does it really matter? How do you teach it? Well, I'm going to say that you can certainly teach it by providing tools and framework and discussion and training. The definition that I have below is really a definition that I put together, uh, taken from a few other sources, I have to admit, but it's defined as knowledge, skills, ability, and conduct. Conduct. So taking the knowledge, skills, and ability, and then putting it into conduct, but it's an expected conduct of practitioners in any profession, obviously talking about healthcare. But I think we all know that professionalism exhibits itself in different ways. Certainly, if there's perhaps codes of conduct within an organization, but that might be similar or different than a smaller unit or a practice or a section within there or a particular shift as well, depending on how large an organization is. Some are large, some are smaller, but the idea of professionalism might vary. And so there might be standards within the organization. They might be slightly different within a section, but they can be demonstrated in different ways. So let me give you the ultimate example, which I think all of you understand well, and that's professionalism when it comes to dress. Expectations of what we wear on the job. Now, of course, it depends on your role, clinician, non-clinician, where you fall. It certainly depends on the time of year, and that's more of a winter, summer type thing as well. But we certainly, healthcare organizations have had to spell this out, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, of really what's expected and what's not expected, or what's not appropriate and what is appropriate. And that is not just what you wear, but perhaps how you look as well. And but it matters. It matters because if the organization, big or small, is producing an outside effect or intended to seem as a professional organization to its clients, to its patients, to its families, what people wear and how they present themselves matters. Now, what we can't control, obviously, are clients or patients coming in. I was just recently at my dental practice receiving my twice a year, twice a year cleaning. And it was noticeable, first of all, fairly easy for all the clinicians, and I'll say the hygienists and the assistants. And they were all dressed similarly. And so maybe that's the easiest thing, whether it be a different type of scrub. And of course, they're engaged in patient care. The dentists were not in scrubs. The front desk staff were, I would say certainly professional outfits. Um, but what I was most noticing were the clients coming in, the patients coming in. It was all over the place, right? We don't have a necessarily a dress code for clients coming in. And so the professionalism rests within the organizations. And then those individuals who are not able to follow it perhaps are subjected to training or some sort of punishment. But that's a way that you demonstrate and you measure it. And so, this type of dress code thing, and some of you have to enforce it, some of you might complain about it as well. It depends on the organization at hand. Here at a place like the University of Southern Indiana, among faculty and staff, there isn't a dress code. So if there isn't a dress code for professionalism, then might it mean that individuals can dress any way they want? Well, that could be the case as well. And that does happen. Uh, and so, but then the image does go out in terms of, at least in other people's minds, how professional a unit or the university at whole might be. I'm going to keep going and just talk about a little more specifics in terms of professionalism in healthcare, but maybe in terms of where people are in their career. So this comes from, it's an oldie but a goodie, from Andy Garman and company, from the Journal of Healthcare Management, which is an excellent source. But expectations of levels of competency based on entry-level positions, mid-level, and senior level. And I think the competency levels matter in terms of understanding professional roles, working with others, self-management, and contribution. It's a great chart, actually, just in terms of expectations. Now, I think many of you fall into different categories here. Some of you have some good experience. Some of you have quite a bit of experience, and others are really in the mode of getting that experience and perhaps shifting your career a little bit, maybe with the help of this degree or this course. And so certainly we see levels of professionalism evolve in healthcare. And this is much more of an administrative management type focus. So it's doubtful that anyone here would be wearing scrubs, as an example. But what's really expected? So we're beyond the dress code, and we're talking about ability to really function in any type of capacity, whether it be a leadership capacity, certainly a follower capacity as well. But at the same time, I think we realize that where many of us actually sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Absorb the jewels of professionalism. Wow, is through role models. And I'm not talking about role models that are out there in the sky, but role models that we can connect with, we have connected with. That could be from a workplace. It certainly become from a non-workplace, family members as well. But we gain a lot of our notion of professionalism through role models. And so the attributes that these role models provide for us, and then we in turn provide as role models, are really measurable. So from a clinical perspective, and I speak to, certainly our clinician friends in any type of healthcare organization, In terms of professionalism, we expect individuals to be knowledgeable and skilled. And but from a personal attribute, you can certainly see, there's a number of others. At least this is an expectation list. And these you can find almost any professional body, whether it be from a physician, nurse, therapist, administrative capacity. You're going to find many of these personal attributes, what we should strive for as well. Alongside, clinicians have the top category as well, but the idea of intaking that from role models is important. So we know that students in any capacity or trainees will pick up a lot of professional type behavior, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable from their supervisors, from their superiors. Everyone will, whether that be, and I don't necessarily want to go back to dress, but certainly that, but behavior as well, interaction with others. It is a learned set of behaviors. It becomes challenging to unlearn, which is becoming one of my new favorite words, by the way. Unlearning stuff is hard, but it's a challenge to unlearn stuff as well. And so for those of you who are striving, which should be hopefully all of you, towards some sort of leadership aspect in healthcare, know that you yourself are looked down as a role model. You might not think about it, but you are, and you will, and that's an expectation that occurs. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, and hopefully you've gotten a sense of a variety of aspects of professionalism, code of conduct. Certainly got a glimpse into a non-healthcare organization, Toyota, as well. But really thinking about professionalism perhaps in some very practical ways. I keep bringing up dress codes, but also a way that it certainly can be taught. It's certainly learned. My argument is mainly through role modeling. And so it's our expectation to really be that role model for a next set of followers. I'll say one more thing that I'm going to keep saying probably every week in this course, that when it comes to the ethical and certainly legal aspects of healthcare, leaders are always on. They're always on. So those of you in a leadership position right now, you're on all the time. What you understand by that is every move you make, every email that's sent, every memo that's communicated, every time you speak to somebody and don't speak to somebody else, it's watched. It's important. Now, it doesn't mean we should drive ourselves, crazy or paranoid, thinking, am I making the right decision? Who's watching me? But you're always on. It doesn't matter what time of day. I think that's a positive thing as well, because it's a 24-hour cycle of being a positive role model and contributing to advancing professionalism in healthcare. Okay, everyone, I'll let you go. Let's see if I can pause this as well. And certainly email me if you have any questions. Thank you.